of India and the world, the one and only Mr. late Ratan Tata ji. तो मैं चाहूँगा जिनको भी रुचि है उनके जीवन के बारे में और जानने में, सुनने में, कृपया बैठे रहें and stay with us. I would request everybody to please empty the corridor.
And please be seated for our next session. Siddharth, I remember when Mr. Ratan Tata passed away in 2024, it felt deeply personal for a lot of Indians. That was the impact of the Titan.
Right.
I remember the social media was full of personal stories and anecdotes about the great man and the life lessons that one acquired from him. The book being discussed in our next session emphasizes on Mr. Ratan Tata's dedication to philanthropy, showcasing his efforts in education, healthcare, and rural development.
Absolutely. I remember a quote, a very famous quote by Mr. Ratan Tata. I don't believe in taking the right decisions. Rather, I believe in taking the decision and making it right. And to discuss on the same, we are delighted to have with us Dr. Thomas Mathew. मैं चाहूँगा तालियों से उनका मंच पे स्वागत करें, वो हमारे बीच कुछ देर में आ जाएंगे और जब तक वो आते हैं उसके पहले मैं चाहूँगा पारुल हमें हमारे दूसरे गेस्ट के बारे में बताएं.
Joining us is Mr. Siddharth Sharma, the CEO of Tata Trusts, one of Asia's largest philanthropic foundations focused on health, education, and livelihoods. Prior to this, Mr. Sharma served as Tata Sons Group Chief Sustainability Officer. He also has extensive experience from over 2 decades in the Indian government, including serving as the financial advisor to the President of India before joining the Tata Group in 2019.
And अगर मैं डॉक्टर थॉमस मैथ्यू के बारे में कहूँ, he is a retired IAS officer and the author of Ratan Tata, a life. He is also a corporate strategist, defense analyst, and an acclaimed photographer. He holds a doctorate in the international relations from JNU and a law degree from the Delhi University. He served in key roles across the ministries of finance, defense, and industry, represented India at global forums, including the US Department of Defense and Stanford, and authored India's defense offset policy. He also played a major role in opening India's capital markets through the Qualified Foreign Investor Scheme in 2012. He is a prolific author and a photographer. 2 of his books were presented by the President Pranab Mukherjee ji to world leaders, and his photographs from Rashtrapati Bhavan were officially used by the President of India. As the discussant for the session, we have a familiar face for you, Mr. Abhilash Khandekar ji. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes for our guests to be here. I believe they are around Antarang. Till then, जितने भी लोग वहाँ पीछे खड़े हैं, उनसे मैं निवेदन करूँगा, कृपया आगे आके बैठ जाइए, ज़्यादा बेहतर रहेगा. We have some empty spaces towards my far right. आप आगे से पीछे से वहाँ पे जा सकते हैं.
Mr. Abhilash Khandekar is a veteran journalist, having worked with Hindustan Times and Dainik Bhaskar. He's authored books on politics, history, and birds. He was the president of the Indore-based Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association and is the co-director of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival.
Can we give them a large round of applause, everybody? मैं चाहूँगा सिद्धार्थ जी and मैथ्यू जी इस मंच पे आए. हम आपके बारे में पूरी हमारे BLF की जनता को बता चुके हैं. बस
Do you want us to say it?
We can do that for sure. But We are all waiting for them, and they are here, and they're going to have a discussion on
Mr. Thomas Mathew, Mr. Siddharth Sharma in conversation with Mr. Abhilash Khandekar.
The life story of Mr. Ratan Tata that we all know as the source of inspiration for generations of India. A large round of applause, everybody, please. To begin with, over to Abhilash Khandekar ji.
Good evening and welcome to this very special session on the iconic figure Mr. Ratan Tata, who left us last year. And there is a wonderful book written by Thomas Mathew, who knew Ratan Tata, as we all know him, R&T, for many years. I welcome Thomas Mathew to this session of the 8th edition of BLF.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Siddharth Sharma, who is the CEO of Tata Trusts, who was specially flown from Mumbai a while ago. I welcome you both. And it's a kind of Herculean task because I met Ratan Tata only once, but you both have known him, worked with him in different capacities. And as Mr. Thomas tells me that he knew Ratan Tata for over 25 years. So give a big hand to Mr. Thomas Mathew for a wonderful book that he has brought out. And let me tell you, it was not Ratan Tata who asked him to write this book. And this is kind of a biography written very independently. And we all know Tata Group and their wonderful activities. He was not only India's business leader, but he was a global business leader. And during his lifetime also, very prominent personalities across the global geopolitical framework, people acknowledge his contribution to not only industry, but also the well-being of the society. So now, in this absorbing session, we have got two eminent persons who will have a lot to tell about Ratan Tata, and you all would love to know more and more about R&T. He had come to Bhopal once. That time I met him many years ago. He had come here to open a school, and that time I had a brief interaction with him, about maybe 5 minutes. But Thomas had spent hours and hours and years researching things and telling the world what the Tata Group stands for and how Ratan Tata led this entire group in the last 25-30 years that he was the head in different capacities. We all knew J.R.D. Tata and also now Ratan Tata. Over to Mr. Thomas Mathew with my first question that you have spent years working on this book, Mr. Thomas, and many hours together with R&T, as we all know. He was very low profile person. He did not, like many other industrialists, would like to have his photographs in media and hold press conferences and things like that. So my question to you, sir, how did you manage to convince R&T about this biography? And you have dug into so many years of research and have told us so many things about R&T. So the first question is, it must have been a difficult task to convince Ratan Tata to have a book on him, because his personality, as we all know, he was not that kind of a flamboyant or this kind of an industrialist or a social leader. So the first question.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhilash ji. Since we are short of time, I'll make it as precise and succinct as possible. Number one, nobody can convince R&T against anything that he does not want to do. Siddharth will bear me out. Equally close to Mr. Tata. It just happened chance. It just happened. Let me tell you. I have a son who's in the Indian Foreign Service, and I used to keep talking about Tata all the time. So he said, "Dad, you speak so much about him. Now I need to see and touch and feel if he's the real person you keep talking about." So one day we were in Mumbai, so he said, "Dad, I want to see Mr. I said, "You cannot pick up the phone and say, 'Come on, I want to see Mr. I said, "Doesn't happen. Even when chairman of Tata Steel will wait for about 5 to 10 years to see him." But R&T's greatest quality is very humble. His humility is so deep that it can embarrass you. You feel like a lesser human being. So I picked up the phone and said, "Sir, I have a son who's crazy. He says he wants to see and touch and feel you, see if you're the real Mr. Tata." So he said, "Thomas, if you're free, come for dinner in the evening." So we went to his house, and he and Mr. Tata got talking to each other. So after about 2 to 3 hours, R&T was more open to him than he was with me. Talked about his girlfriend. I said at the end of the conversation, I told him, sir, this will make a great autobiography. Why don't you go ahead and write? Then at the weak moment, turned on and told me, Thomas, I think you write it. Okay. And it was a weak moment. He said, you write it. And that was the beginning of the story. And believe me, after he said, you write it, you know, a man of his words, he wrote to everybody who he knew well, including Henry Kissinger, Raphael Reif, the chief of MIT, and most importantly, his girlfriend.
Would you like to
In
show
San
the photograph
Francisco.
of the
No,
girl?
no, I'm going to show the, you know, in the morning I was discussing with somebody saying that R&T was so much in love with his girlfriend, he wanted her to come to India. And he says, no, and you actually spoke, I said, and also she gave me 2 amazing photographs, which I'm going to share with you. I think you can read about his business elsewhere, but about his love life, I'm sure you'd not have heard much. Okay, I'm going to show you this. It's, okay. Oh, this is me with Henry Kissinger when he said, go ahead and meet, okay? This, it's not moving, my friend. Okay, can you go on to the next one? Yeah, this is R&T, okay, those days. And I'm sure it'll give men complex if you look at him.
Is this the same photograph?
This is the same photograph. Hazel eyes, which melts 3 colors. That is gold, brown, and green. And Carolyn told me that the minute he, she saw him, she wanted to say hello, but she couldn't say hello. She couldn't speak. She said, my throat went dry. In fact, I've written that in the book, but then people said, somebody came and said, this is not Mills and Bones. I said, there's a Mills and Bone in everybody's life, but then, that part got edited. Now, I'm going to show you, this is his girlfriend.
Ah.
Never mind R&T stare, okay? Never mind R&T stare.
Yes, Siddharth, you would like to chip in?
Let me just add, since he's on the topic of R&T's girlfriends. He was a handsome man, very handsome man.
Indeed.
And my last recollection of him being alive was he passed away on 9th of October, and we were all, some of us were together with him at Breach Candy. Around the 1st or 2nd October, I was sitting with him. We'd finished work. We had finished work, and then I got a clip. I had a clip on my mobile, and I said, I'd want you to have a look at this. So it was an old interview of his with Simi Grewal. And he had a look at that. He was very wistful about it. And he said, I don't recognize myself now, Siddharth. And I told him, I thought you would have made a great couple, both of you. And he said, Siddharth, we dated for some time. Not in India, but in New York. So R&T had his share of girlfriends.
Yeah, he had. No, I'll tell you, now he's opened the topic. I don't think we have enough time. He had 4 serious girlfriends, okay? Simi Garwal, a few dates, you had to take somebody to New York to date her. That means you're not a serious girlfriend, okay? He had 4 serious girlfriends. And the last was most interesting. He's a techie girl, a Gujarati, half his age, and he really wanted to, he was besotted by her. And he told me, Thomas, I wanted to marry her. I said, then what happened? One morning she said she wants to go out somewhere to get her hair done, and he said she ran away with her first boyfriend. And R&T was very upset, and after that R&T said, she lives a kind of lifestyle which I don't like. Okay, that's as regards as girlfriends are concerned. There's no time for those. Now, after R&T gave me access, something, he will agree that Tata's such a closed house. From my computer, I could access all the archives and the servers of Tata Sons. You know what that meant? And as a result of which, we were able to append for the first time almost 90% of the existing narratives on Tata Group, including R&T's lineage. I don't know if you know, R&T's father, that is Neville Tata, was adopted from an orphanage, from a petit orphanage called Petit Orphanage. And therefore he always had that complex about it. So he tried to trace his ancestry, but stopped and said, I believe that one of my forefathers He's the second cousin of Jamshedji, that is what he had written. I picked up that paper, went to Navsari about 16 times. Then finally, Fire Temple opened for me. And I got his lineage for the first time, that there is a Tata called Bika Tata, from whom there are two lines of successors. One is Jamshedji, second is R&T. When I asked R&T, he said, Thomas, I wish I had known this in 1991. Because in 1991, March, when he took over, people said he's an outsider. And he was considered a greenhorn. And he was considered not capable of doing anything. And as a result of which he opened up the entire archives, we were able to bring to the people the enormity of his achievements, which he himself did not know. So I am not going to speak more. It's already 5.
No, people
17.
would love to know about the
But we have
girlfriends.
time.
They would like to know about girlfriend, and also
He is deriving vicarious pleasure from it.
No, in spite of four girlfriends, he remained bachelor throughout his life. So the question that I was again asking you, you have partially replied to that, you were drawn to him with certain qualities that he had. So it was whether this mega empire, his humility, his leadership abilities, or something else, which the first thought came into the author Thomas' mind was what?
See, R&T is so simple that is the most complex man you can ever find. Simplicity is the most difficult, complex situation that you can break your head. You try to unravel, it's like pieces of onion, okay? But I don't know how to explain this to you. This is what I told him. Told him two things. First is that R&T in his person combines characters of opposing polarities, which normally would not house in one person. In other words, you find normally an industrialist, fast charging, not considerate, no sympathy, is interested only in quarterly results and numbers. R&T was that when it came to numbers, but he also showed the kind of empathy which is rare, extremely rare in the world. If you ask me this question on 2611, I will elaborate. So what do you find in R&T? So the last sentence of my book, if I remember correctly, is R&T epitomized the heart of a fierce capitalist, but with an implacable socialist heart. So that's the combination I'm talking about.
So I would like Siddharth to elaborate on that empathy factor and the works that he personally, not the Tata Group, but he personally did for the sake of society. Because you have worked with him for so many years, from very close. So would you like to shed some light?
Yeah, so I think you approach this from two ways. One is, of course, what he was as a human being. And I think for all of us who were lucky enough to view him very closely and to sit with him, I think his deep humility, people always use, but you know, it goes to the extent where you are just not able to comprehend it. And I'll give you, you know, anyone who went to his house, and it was irrespective of rank, it was irrespective of anything, till the time mobility allowed him,
He would open the door himself.
He would always walk you out to the door, wait for your car to move out before he went in. And I'm saying it is irrespective of whether you were a CEO, whether you were a chief minister, or whether you were just someone with a very ordinary designation, etc.
Yeah.
So I think that humility and the concern for others. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I'm a vegetarian, and R&T used to love his seafood. And all Parsis love their non-vegetarian
All Parsis,
stuff.
yes.
He used to have an immense liking for seafood. He had a particular table in the Thai pavilion which was there for him. He used to go, etc. And whenever he would invite me home for dinner, he would always eat vegetarian food. And I would tell him that, why are you doing this? I will have the vegetarian food.
You can always have your seafood.
No, I will not. I mean, that is the level of care
Empathy.
that the person will go to. I mean, he had very high standards for himself. And that's why I also feel that when you're talking about that transcended into official life, because when he was the last Tata to be both Chairman Tata Sons and Chairman Tata
Trusts.
Right? So he handled the philanthropic and the business aspects equally.
Together.
And once he stepped down as Chairman Tata Sons in 2012, and he came over, his full role was then Chairman Tata Trusts. I think he completely re-envisioned the way philanthropy was done by Tata Trusts and the way philanthropy is done in India. And I'll just give you one example, which is if you look at the burden of cancer in India, and today, of course, 15 years down the line, we are talking about non-communicable diseases being a very, very important health concern. At that point of time, there was cancer. And the investment that the Tata Trust made in Assam, which has a cancer incidence which is far higher than the national average, he basically looked at 17 hospitals in Assam.
In Assam, just one small
Just
state.
one state, because the idea was that you will have a distributed cancer care model, and every resident of Assam will have access to quality care in cancer, in oncology, within 150 kilometers of where they resided. And that was an investment of about 2,500 crores.
And done very quietly. Done very quietly.
Everything is done.
This is again the Tata philosophy, but he epitomized it so well. I remember we were doing a cancer campaign along with CNBC TV 18. It was a nationwide rollout. And they came to me for video bites, and they wanted R&T's video bites. And I said, it's a good cause, you've always supported it. Said, Siddharth, no, I don't want to be the face. Let our work speak for itself.
Kya baat hai?
It is not for Ratan Tata to speak about what he does. It is for the rest of the country to see what the Tata Trusts and what the Tata ecosystem does. So it's a different, I think it's completely, you will not see people with that kind of integrity, with that kind of spine, with that kind of vision. I have not yet seen an industrialist. Today, all of you here, we talk about climate change. It is an existential threat to humanity. And prior to my appointment as CEO of Tata Trusts, I was Group Chief Sustainability Officer for the Tata Group. You would not believe this was Ratan Tata, who in 1992, when nobody was talking about climate change, went to the Rio summit, was invited there, and that is when, at that point of time, he enunciated the climate change policy for the Tata Group, got a water footprinting and a carbon benchmarking done for all Tata companies. The vision was extraordinary.
He was ahead of time. He was ahead of time.
Far, I don't think you will have any industrialist, and I say it without reserve, with that kind of vision, and as Thomas Mathew said, to combine that vision with a heart of gold.
He brought his vision into reality and actually showed it that the scalable achievements in different parts. So Assam, you touched upon Assam, so I'll ask Thomas about the value system, ecosystem that you were talking about. I remember having read in this book that one of the GMs of the Tata Tea Gardens was abducted during the Bodoland and Ulfa agitations. And it went on and on for about 11 months, and the ransom asked was about 54 crore. But Ratan Tata just refused to bog down to. So what is the story?
It's a long story, but let me cut it short for you. They asked for 54 crores. R&T said that's not going to happen. He sent his closest aide, I suppose you must have heard of Mr. Krishna Kumar, he's almost his alter ego, to negotiate with Ulfa. And finally Ulfa said, okay, give us 5 lakhs. Even that R&T said, no, that's not going to happen. He said, we will step up the philanthropic activities in the tea estates. And they stepped it up to such an extent that Paresh, who was the Ulfa chief, that is Paresh Barwa said,
Ulfa chief, yeah.
Ulfa chief, I come from northern part of Assam. I know the kind of activities, philanthropic activities that the Tatas are doing, especially medical care. And if I ask money from Tatas now, the people will rise against me. And he was freed without paying any ransom. But R&T took to his guns. He said, no, I will not. I will increase whatever kind of activities you want in the philanthropic realm, but payment not possible. Actually, if you look at various newspaper articles, you go to New York Times said Tata's paid. It's not true. For the first time in the history, we got a guy called Ratan Tata, and IPS officers here would know that, from the Intelligence Bureau, additional director, on record, because he was handling Ulfa at that moment. And he, on record, said that Tatas have not paid money to Ulfa at all. That is counter-narrative. The New York Times, Washington Post, all the newspapers said that the Tatas have paid, but actually Tatas did not.
Because
Same
it
thing
went on,
was
because that
corroborated.
incident went on for about 11 months, as you write.
And this was corroborated by the IG intelligence called Ramachandran, who was there in Assam. On record, said Tatas have not paid. So there is no question of Tatas paying money. Okay, there is no question of Tatas paying money for anything.
So Siddharth, taking this further, the value systems, would you like to add more about Tata? And also, while philanthropy they do quietly, in different sectors, it is not only sustainability and Rio Summit, but medical care, health care, and many other areas. So we would like to know from you what all Tatas do for the society.
Well, I'll just put it this
It
way.
should come from the horse's mouth.
No, I think I'll put it this way that I think for all of you who may not know, because everybody relates to individual Tata companies. You talk about a Taj, which is an Indian hotels, you talk about TCS, you talk about Tata Steel. But if you look at the organizational structure, I think it's unique and unparalleled anywhere in the world. Because on the top of the ecosystem sit the Tata Trusts, which are philanthropic in nature, but which are still majority shareholders of the group or the Tata Sons, which is the holding company. Then you have Tata Sons, and then you have the individual companies in which Tata Sons holds shareholding between 30 to 75%, like in TCS it is about 75%. The dividends from these companies go back to Tata Trusts, to Tata Sons, and from Tata Sons to Tata Trusts because of the virtue of our majority shareholding in Tata Sons. So the whole ethos of the group, and you will never see this anywhere else, that both wheels have to work in perfect tandem for industry to function and for philanthropy to function. And starting from 1892, when the J.N. Tata Endowment was set up, and which kind of has sent so many brilliant Indian students for studies abroad, including President Narayanan and so many others, you have gone into probably the Tata Trusts are welded into every aspect of Indian society. So whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is water and sanitation, in every single thing the Tata Trusts are working side by side. You know of institutions, world-class institutions which have been incubated, which is Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, the Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai, the National Center for Performing Arts. Now, these are all institutions which came up, and I am not talking about R&T alone here. This is the vision of the founders and every single chairman. I always say that the Tatas have been very, very lucky, in a sense, blessed by God, to have a leadership which has been there for almost 20 to 25 years, each chairman, and each one carrying on the vision of the preceding one. So they have actually built, the tendency in India. I know there's so many bureaucrats around here, and one of the unfortunate parts is that everyone who comes in tries to reinvent the wheel and thinks that he is responsible for all the betterment that comes in the system. The Tatas have actually built it brick by brick. Everybody has ridden on the shoulder of the giants before them. And therefore, when I say, if you look at the kind of work, I will just tell you, I was talking about non-communicable diseases. There's an NCD portal that has been developed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which has an enrollment of 51 crore Indians out of a population of 140 crores. 51 crores across all our states and union territories have been empaneled on that portal, where you have a complete thing of what their healthcare status looks like And who has built that platform? The Tata Trusts. And people will not know this because this is one thing we spend, I was just saying, the Tata Trusts alone close to about 2,000 crores in annum. And the rest of the Tata companies, another 2,000.
Another 2,000.
So you're spending close to 4,000 crores, but you will not see any of us. Nobody taking credit, nobody claiming anything, nobody saying that I did this or we did this. And that
Let us
is an
give a
ethos
big
of-
hand to this kind of philosophy in days when people want to see everywhere in picture and this thing. Here is a group which is doing things very quietly and silently for
And
the
you know,
sake of
so
society.
that is an ethos of absolutely undiluted service to nation building. And I think that is what has always characterized the founders, R&T, and everybody has taken that forward. I was in a discussion, a short discussion before we came into this panel, and we were talking about an individual. So my question is, you may be as brilliant as you want to be, or as God gifted you to be. You may have all the genius in the world. If you do not have institutional integrity, and if you do not have spine, that genius is not worth anything. And what the Tatas have been blessed with is this. This community has contributed much more to the development of India than anyone else, and that is why it is viewed the way it is.
So let me just
Thomas-
add one point to what Siddharth was saying. You know, at the fundamental level, there is one thing he said, it's a unique organization. Why is it unique? It is unique because a philanthropic organization owns business. Please understand, a philanthropic organization owns business, and the business does not own a philanthropic organization. You have Indian businessmen, Indian business houses who make money and have philanthropy. I don't want to be charitable because they engage in philanthropy because it is fashionable.
Precisely.
Here, Tata Sons been created only for philanthropy, for nothing else. It comes from Jamsetji's trusteeship concept, which means you hold wealth on behalf of the people, identify a social need, wrap a business around it, make profit, and plow it back for the society. That's the difference.
So they did it on their own much before this CSR kind of legal instruments came into
Where is
being. They did
CSR?
with
No,
some
no.
2% of this
Yeah,
companies
so
act, some kind of
CSR,
profits.
See,
isn't it?
Abhilash, again, I think CSR, of course, came into effect in 2014.
14.
Right? And it mandated companies with a certain criteria to contribute 2%. Now, much before this, because as I said, Tata Trusts were established in doing philanthropy in 1892,
92.
right? And that time we were a colonial administration. It was not the government of...
Add the fact that in 1892, the scholarship started with Indian students going to UK
Yes.
to take the ICS
Yes,
examination.
yes.
That's how it started.
And we were a colonial administration, so we were only bothered with law and order and collection of revenue.
Collection of revenue.
The British government did not have anything else to do in that sense. The Tatas introduced bonuses, payment of gratuity, creches in their factories. Every single welfare legislation that was adopted by the government of independent India post 1947 owes its origins to what the Tatas practiced. And that, I think, is the crux, that you always did it because you thought it was the right thing to do. It was not mediated by because the politics of a situation demanded it, or because your business demanded it,
Or because law demands it.
or because law demanded it. You did it because you thought it was the right thing to do, and that's really been the guiding philosophy.
So philanthropy to this thing, I am again asking Thomas, you have written in the book at some place I have written that he was not a man in a hurry, but you have also said he was. So I would like to ask you, how do you explain it to our esteemed audience? Was he in a hurry to expand his empire as an industrialist like many of the industries we see today with the help of government or otherwise? Or he was really interested in looking after the group's welfare, and when he went to UK, he acquired Chorus Group, he acquired the motor company, Jaguar. So you are saying that he was not in a hurry, but yet you say he was in a hurry. So would you like to explain it, to what kind of person he was?
There is no contradiction. I said He doesn't appear to be a man in a hurry, but he's a man in a hurry. One is perception, the other is reality. Now let me tell you why it is so. Imagine, you go back to 1991, R&D takes over in March. It is contemporaneous with the economic liberalization, where you have the buffeting winds of economic change affecting all the industrial houses. And all the industrial houses except the Tatas were not prepared for the change and for the marauding companies from abroad trying to do a hostile takeover. So when R&D took over, I'll tell you something, as a part of this research which came out, because he gave me this kind of access. You'll be surprised to know when R&D took over in 1991, the stake, that is, as Siddharth said, Tata Sons is the holding company or the promoter. That is his flagship for Tata Steel. Tata Sons had less shares in Tata Steel than Birla's had. Unbelievable, incredible. In other words, Birla's had 10.3% more shares than Tata Sons had in the flagship Tata Steel. So that was the pick-and situation R&D was confronted with. So therefore, he had to be a man in a hurry in order to ensure that he runs the companies profitably, as he said, to plow back into trust for philanthropy. Please understand. So not other industry. Other industrial houses will like to make money to buy aircraft for their kit and kin to fly to New York and to other places. Here it's completely different. All right? Now, you said he's an expansionist. Expansion is a very imperial term. It is, it's got a negative connotation. Now, why did R&D, there's no time, there's paucity of time, Why did R&D go abroad? Okay, because organic growth is not possible all the time. You have to use inorganic growth. And there are two reasons why he went abroad. One is to hedge the geographical risk. Simply means, if a sales of, let's say, steel in India plummets, the steel in UK need not plummet. So you hedge the risk. Second is to get their technology. Like you see today Tata Motors, it's almost, adopted almost all the technical know-how of Jaguar. And then there is a hidden motive, okay? I don't think there's any person who could be more patriotic than R&D. But he will say it, I will say it, he will say it more profoundly. But R&D never said it except on one occasion. In 2012, in Cornell, while being felicitated, he was asked, why are you doing all these acquisitions? That is Tetley, Jaguar, you have a chemical company in Magadi. It's called the, Tata Chemicals Magadi. It has been acquired from a British company, Bruno. It's called Brunamont. And then you know what he said? At a weak moment, it's the kind of empire striking back.
There is a
Just
heading
one sentence I picked
Empire
it.
Strikes Back.
Empire. Now, why did he say it? When I pricked him, he said, no, Thomas, he just came. I said, there has to be a reason. He reminded me something, which, Angus Madison's book. When the Britishers came to India, I don't know if there are any Britishers over here, and if they are here, I think they should hear it. Okay. Now, when the Britishers came to India, India's economy was larger than the entire European nations put together. And when they left, we were about 5.4%. And can you imagine, it's a matter of national pride. But, let me put it like this to you. If you see TV shows, you will find the Queen and the King take fascination in riding in Jaguar Land Rover, correct? You cannot miss it in any function. Can you imagine British Prime Minister Winston Churchill called every Indian a beastly man or a beastly woman? And an Indian owning a car that the Queen is driving, I think that's national pride. And that is what...
Very good.
That is what R&D actually symbolized. And then I'll give you one small instance, and then stop it here. When R&D took over, there's only 20% of the revenue that came from abroad, okay? And when he stepped down in 2012, it was 60%. I'll just give you two figures why he was a man in a hurry. he picked up, that is the total revenue, that is the total revenue of Tata companies when he took over was $5.4 billion in 1991. He took it to $100 billion, that is 1,742%, okay? And, but the Britishers and the Americans don't recognize Indian leaders as business leaders. In fact, you find, Jack Welch, you must have heard of GE, Jack Welch? He was the chief of GE from 1981 to 2000 for 19 years. And it took his company from 27 billion to 130 billion, that's about 381%. While R&T pipped them by 1,361%. Yet, Jack Welch was declared by economists as the business leader of decades in the US and the world. That is what R&T, and just giving you one example, when you look at Tata Sons' total revenue as a percentage of GDP, in 1991 it was 1.88. By the time R&T stepped down, it was 5.47% during a time of high economic growth. So you can imagine the kind of economic activity he generated within this country. And please understand, at the end of the day, not for him to give his son or children anything, but plow back into what Siddharth said, Tata Trust for the society, for the people. That is what it is.
But let me also tell the audience, of course, his achievements as an industrialist are very well known, and I mean, he has done a tremendous job of documenting everything. But R&T held everybody to a very high standard. But most importantly, he held himself to the highest standard. I asked him this question, and I fortunately had that relationship with him where I could literally ask him anything. And I said,
That's
why?
because he also looks like a Parsi, isn't it?
I said, why in the world would you have decided to step down in 2012 at the age of 75? You were in perfect health, mentally, physically, etc. What got into you when the Tatas were, you were at the helm for 21 years, you had basically internationalized the Tatas like no one else before, and why would you just not kind of, why? And he said, Siddharth, I had set this rule for each of our companies, and I could not flout it for myself. And that is holding yourself to a standard, whatever be the cost to you yourself. And it was not the cost to him. It was his going away from the group at his prime.
Caused all the problems.
Caused a lot of issues. But he still stuck to the principle. And the second part is, I don't think anyone who's worked with R&T has ever seen him lose his temper. And when I say work very, very closely. At best, his face would turn a shade of crimson, if he was upset. So I remember in all the years I worked with him, there's only one instance. There was some issue being raised in the board, and I responded on his behalf. And when I responded on his behalf, I gave him a call. I was on my way from Bombay to Bangalore. I sit on the board of governors of the Indian Institute of Science. So I was there I was going to attend a meeting, and I gave him a call. I said, I've just sent a mail. I've responded to some of this thing. I would just advise that you have a look at it. So he had a look at the mail, and he gave me a call back. And he said, you've opened a Pandora's box. I don't think you should have done this. And for the first time, the only time, I saw testiness in his voice. So I said, do you want me to cancel the Bangalore thing and come back and explain to you? Because I think you've not understood the intent behind this mail. So he said, no, you go ahead. So that ended, and that was, sometime in the evening, I get a call from him. And this is where I say it's a mark of a man in the humility. And he said, Siddharth, I profusely apologize.
Oh.
I profusely apologize. I went through the mail again. And what you said was absolutely correct. It is I who did not understand it.
Yeah,
and I think that is really where leadership transcends to another level. And that's where I think we will not have these kind of leaders who have the ability to not only look many, many decades ahead of them, but also deeply introspect within and empower and develop their teams.
Well, I'm getting some indications that we should wrap up, but I would like to ask you about that very famous incident after the
The 2611.
The 2611 and Taj was the center of activity, and we were told that R&T stood there, looked after the victims, and more from you for that.
Okay. Just quickly, I'll go through this. This is also one of the very touching chapters, because that is where empathy, R&T can be described only through T.S. Eliot's words. You know what I don't remember exactly, but I'll just tell you what it means. He says, she says that highest form of knowledge is empathy, because you will have to surrender yourself and place yourself in the other person's situation. That is R&T, empathy. And second is other Schopenhauer's German philosophers. That is, humility to human being is like warmth to wax. That these two quotes actually symbolize the personality. And I'll just he said.
Just before that, I would like to say, like he was talking about the Tata Group, Siddharth was also talking about it, Tata Motors and everything, and how Tatas, looked after their people. I was told, I stand corrected if it is wrong, that after Sumant Mulgaonkar died, Sumant Mulgaonkar was one of the key
figures
Tata of Motors. Tata Motors. The Tatas launched a vehicle called Sumo.
That's right.
Which stood for Sumant SU and Mulgaonkar MOOGL.
That is correct.
So Sumo Motor was named after Sumant Mulgaonkar, who was the head of Tata Motors. Am I right?
That's right.
So that is how the people. I mean, that is how the company looks after its own people.
Sumant Mulgaonkar was actually the person who brought Tata Motors to its position when R&T took over. Okay. Something
so about
interesting.
Taj, because
I'm going to come. Just going to take only 1 minute.
Not many cities have Taj hotels. Bhopal has Taj Hotel, and the owner.
But I know he goes to Taj Hotel
like
very frequently. I'm going to come to that later. I'll just put a quiz on. Just to understand the enormity of R&T's achievement, which R&T himself did not know, honestly. I don't want to say it openly, but the bureaucracy is probably better at recording data. Can anybody tell me, wager a guess, R&T took over Tata Motors in December of 1988. I'm taking up to 2016 because, as McKinsey says, in 2007-8 you had the economic meltdown. So take about 6 years further than that to understand if it has come back to same growth. Can you tell me what would have been the growth, top line growth of Tata Motors from 1988 to 2016? Anybody? Come on, huh? Okay, somebody else? Come again? 800. Somebody?
Well calculated guess, not just guess.
No, well calculated.
Don't say for the sake of saying.
2,000%. Okay? Okay.
So now, better
wait a minute. I went to R&T. I looked at the 1988 annual report. 2016, I took out the annual report. I told him, sir, do you know something? The growth is so dizzying. He said, what is it? 1,000%? As he said, Mr. Vikas said, 2,000%. I said, no. I said, 64 short of 20,000%. He said, not possible. I said, sir, wager. I said, wager. He said, what do you want? I said, give me a blank check. I took the annual report of 1988, took the annual report of 2016, it is 1,963%. That is 19,963%. And he gave me a blank check, but it did not have a sign. That's R&T. He kept his word. He kept his word. Okay, sorry. Now, I'll just tell you about 2611.
So coming back to Taj.
Yeah, that's called the 2611, brought out the best in him. He stood outside for 3 days. And I don't want to say this because my flight in Air India, my ticket get cancelled. I wrote an article about R&D standing outside there for 3 days. You know, if you see the famous photograph, leaning against the wall with Krishna Kumar on the side, leaning and standing just like an ordinary person. While you are the CEO of Air India, plagiarize a condolence from an American airline CEO and read it out. Okay, now I'll just put it like this. 2611, giving you 2 instances. Taj did not touch only the people who were affected by Taj. The best example is a person called Chemburkar, who was the bell captain in Oberoi Trident. He died, left one daughter and mother who was suffering from Alzheimer's, and a father who was paralyzed. As soon as they heard, the mother went into shock. And Anjali Chemburkar, the wife, you know, you can imagine a situation in Mumbai. Taj Public Trust got to them. And you know what they did? They said, we will take care of the entire family. Give each one of you the benefit which you would have got if your husband were employed. And she made her a dress, what is the hairdo specialist. And the daughter, was very interesting story. You know what happened to daughter? Daughter went for a graduation. Then she said she wants to be an air hostess. Sorry, Baba said wants to be an air hostess. Okay, fine. Tata's paid for it. After about 4 years into being an air hostess, you know what they did? She said, I want to be a pilot. So Tata, the Taj Trust said, yes, go ahead. And today she flies you.
Kya baat hai?
And that's, in other words, I told, R&T gave wings to broken homes.
Broken homes.
That's exactly what it is.
See, as he said, the Taj Public Service Welfare Trust was set up. There's a very unfortunate incident involving an Air India aircraft flying from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. And we've set up the AI 171 Trust for rehabilitation of everyone who's been affected, with co-contribution from Tata Trusts and Tata Sons. And I think the point is that, again, we believe that human life cannot be indemnified. But as an organization which is responsible and which is committed to human welfare, you try and do the best you can to make sure that you put those lives of the survivors back on track, and you try to help them cope with the vicissitudes of life. And this goes beyond any business logic, any rationality, any reason. It is basically an underlying humanity. And that is what the Tatas have always epitomized.
Thank you. So with the permission of the author, he is in a hurry, he has to catch a flight. You're not in a hurry? Okay, that's all. No. So, some questions from the audience? Siddharth? We also have Siddharth here. So, we open the floor for questions. Please identify yourself, and the question is aimed at the author or the CEO. No questions? Please give the mic. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Sir, first of all, thank you for your service. Tata Trust has been doing a tremendous job in the country. So my question is, like contemporary businesses that are there out there, to understand how the profits and losses works out. There are metrics for that. But for a philanthropy organization where the whole goal is to provide for people and to provide for philanthropic act, how is the success matrix works into that category?
Well, obviously the contexts are very different. Philanthropy is very different from business, and therefore you cannot really quantify. And that's the question is, how do you look at impact? And impact in every area. So if you're looking at education, so you are, let us say, working in an aspirational district or an aspirational block, and what is the percentage of literacy there? What is the percentage of children who are outside of the classrooms? And over a period of 5 years, how can you change those social metrics? So the focus is more on social aspects, there's a concept of a social return on investment. You also ensure that when you leave, because obviously as a philanthropy, sources of funds are always finite, and they need to be deployed across many areas and across many geographies. So you can't continuously keep supporting the same community. So a huge element that we look at is that what is your exit strategy? And will the communities be in a position to be able to carry forward the gains which have come from this impact once you leave? Because otherwise, if you are not able to do that, then the community goes back to the same state which it was when you took over. So, you don't look at it in terms of business aspects, you look at it in terms of social indicators and how you are able to raise the bar there.
Thank you. So we can have only one more question.
I think the
This-
gentleman
this
from
girl-
far left.
Far left.
Just pass on the mic to sir.
Siddharth?
Yes, just a minute.
Siddharth, this young lady is also wanting to ask.
How is
Okay,
this?
so we'll take both questions quickly. Crisp, jaldi karenge. Yes.
How is this book different from R.M. Lala's book, The Creation of Wealth?
Okay, thank you.
Chalk and cheese.
Pass on the mic here to the lady.
Chalk and cheese.
Very short and brief, beautiful answer.
Yes.
Yes, young
It's
lady.
on. Yes, it's working.
Puchiye.
I must say one thing, who asked that question?
That
Gentleman right there.
You have done what nobody else.
Mic, please.
You've done what nobody else has been able to do in Thomas Mathew's career. Restrict him to 3 words.
well said.
Yes, please go ahead.
Ask your question quickly.
Good evening. My question is that I understand from the insights that humility and empathy were the basic tenets of leadership that Ratan Tata had. According to you, what were the top 3 other things that helped him thrive in leadership role that would help us also in young leadership?
Thank
You know what you should do? You should, even if you don't buy the book, photocopy the chapter called The Appointment. R&T was not appointed because he was a Tata, because nobody knew that he was a Tata then. Okay? I will list out the qualities which I have sutured from the various utterances of JRD, who watched him over virtually 2 decades. From 1962, R&T has been employed by Tata, various Tata companies, starting from the shop floor. Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'll just
Oh,
finish.
so sorry, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just quickly. 1, courage. 2, adventurism. 3, as he said, far-sighted vision. Okay, far-sighted. Good memory. No, what he had chosen. Then he said, most importantly, empathy, sympathy, compassion. Because that's what Tata Trust stands for. And you had other contenders. Finally, JRD said, the one aspect that tipped in favor of R&T was, quote unquote, only he has my kind of integrity. Stop.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I would quickly like to invite Raghav Chandra ji on stage. Along with him, मैं चाहूँगा दिलीप सूर्यवंशी जी, the chairperson of Dilip Buildicon. मैं चाहूँगा आप दोनों को आदर के साथ इस मंच पे आमंत्रित करूँ और उनके शुभ हाथों से मैं चाहूँगा हमारे Oh, I didn't know that. Is it? मैं चाहूँगा अच्छा Well, I would request the gentleman to please present our guests with the memento of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival 2026, created by the Gond artist Padma Shri Durgabai Vyamji, titled as Little Godaliya, a story of devotion. This artwork, if you observe closely, depicts a tiny bird loved by Bhangsu, which is transformed by the tribal god Burra Deva into a beautiful maiden. There it is, the very beautiful mascot of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival 2026, 8th edition. Thank you so much, Thomas ji, Abhilash ji, and Siddharth ji. आपका नाम बहुत अच्छा है, सिद्धार्थ नाम के लोग बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, मेरा भी नाम सिद्धार्थ है. Thank you so much. A big round of applause everybody for the gentleman, such an engaging conversation. Once again, apologies जिनके सवाल हम नहीं ले पाए, पर आप जरूर इन्हें पकड़ लीजिए. बाहर ले जाके इनके साथ बैठिए, बातचीत कीजिए, चाय पीजिए. The next session